all right, so he gets in, and then in your book you wrote that you were adamant you did not want him to run in 24. How
in 24
yeah,
or 20?
20, sorry.
Yeah.
How did you nor anybody else say anything?
Oh, I did. And by the way, I was not adamant that he shouldn't run. I was adamant that I would do whatever he wanted to do. That's what I was adamant about. I never, ever, ever wanted to be the reason my dad didn't do the thing that my brother and I most wanted him to do our whole lives. Is that I did not want to be the fault line. I did not want to. I mean, like, think of your own personal experience with somebody that you adore, love, and respect as much as him, or in your life. Is that I could never go to him and say, "Dad, don't do this," and know that he wouldn't do it because of me. It would be like, I don't know, like if Arian wanted to go back and go back to the NFL, and it was his greatest dream. And if his son, I don't think his son would ever come to you and go, "Dad, don't do it."
I hope he would.
Well, by the way, that is true. And so to this degree, is that in 2020, I didn't want to be that person, but in 2024, when everything broke down after all of the consequences of that debate, and my dad asked me. And, Jake Tapper and other people reporting out there that there was some, like, me and my mother were like propping up my dad and, like, carrying him around and, like, telling him you got to run. It's literally the furthest thing from the truth. I said to Dad, "Dad, I want you to do whatever you have to do for the country. But just know this, is that I want you back. Your family wants you back. Like I was angry. Like, they don't deserve you. Like, if you want to leave, I will be more proud of that decision than any other decision that you've ever made." I mean, I so desperately did not want my dad to spend whatever energy he had left in life is, fighting on behalf of anybody but himself and my family.
Along those lines, like, so from somebody left-leaning, there's a lot of talk around that time during about how the Democratic establishment was trying to push him out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I want to know, like, how much truth behind the scenes
100%
was there to this. So there was.
Okay. So,
and then how, like as a family, how did that feel? And then the other, the part of the question is, like, you mentioned the debate and how it was like it was a bad look, right? And I know there's pops and everything, but, like, people like to see a strong, whatever the case may be.
Man.
And age is a part of everybody's life, right?
Yeah.
And so those two things combined as a family, how did that whole thing play out, and how did y'all deal with it?
Yeah. So the first part is so after the debate, which was horrible, and one of the biggest reasons that it was horrible is that Joe Biden is kind of been ubiquitous and in everyone's politics for decades. And he's known as a really great debater. I mean, part of the reason that Barack Obama chose my dad to be vice president, beyond their personal relationship, was that my dad's performance on the debate stage during that run in 2008 in the primaries is that he had that great line about Rudy Giuliani, a noun, a verb, and 9/11. He had these great, and in his past debates as vice president and with Trump, he dominated the debate stage. So he gets out there. And it's not just that he doesn't win the debate, because remember, everybody thought that Barack Obama lost his first debate to Mitt Romney back in 2008. I don't necessarily agree with that, but that's what all the polling said. It wasn't just a bad debate that you lost. My dad walked out, and he literally, for the first time in my life I've ever seen this, he looked like a deer in the headlights. He looked blank. And what do I attribute that to? Well, I now know what to attribute it to. I thought that it may have had something to do with them giving him Ambien when he was flying back and forth, his age, the combination of that. But now I know. My dad had cancer. My dad's, he didn't know. I mean, we didn't find out until 9 months later that he not only had stage 4 prostate cancer, but he had stage 4 metastatic bone cancer, which means that it had been metastasizing for over a 3-year period of time. And for some reason, they didn't do
how does that happen, by the way?
So here's how it happens. and this is crazy to me, under the AMA's guidelines, is that you do not test somebody over the age of 75 for a PSA. You don't include that in their blood test. Excuse me. And the reason that you don't is because it would overwhelm the insurance system. Because the likelihood of you dying before the
president of the United States.
Exactly.
Stop.
Exactly.
Well, it's like if you catch it,
I'm not kidding.
You're
a lot of
being serious
Americans
right
I'm being
die
fucking
with
serious.
prostate
Walter
cancer,
Reed, Army
and
Medical.
they don't know it.
Yeah, I think it's like a
They don't
huge
die
percentage.
from it.
No, but they all have it.
Yeah.
That's
Like,
They all
not
have
of
it,
us.
but they're going to die of something else before they die of that.
Exactly.
That's
I think it's like
bonkers.
a huge percentage too.
So
Crazy, Dante. Crazy. So regardless of what I'm saying is this. Now, in that debate, he has that moment, and that moment is like for the first 5 minutes, which is awful, to answer the rest of your question. So afterwards, they set a bunch of hurdles for him. One was to sit down for an hour and a half interview with George Stephanopoulos 2 days later. Then it was to do the NATO press conference, in which for over 2 hours he answered questions from 100, like over literally 50 journalists about foreign policy and NATO, and it's a tour de force Joe Biden performance. And then he has the NAACP in Las Vegas, followed by from the Hispanic community the next day. So he passes all of those hurdles, and but immediately the quote unquote like the Pod Save America bros, and who I don't think are representative of the Democratic Party, and I don't want to start another fight with them. But
all the Johns.
I will. What?
there's multiple Johns that'll come at you.
Yeah, exactly,
guys,
right.
yeah.
And I don't even remember who was,
Yeah.
but they're all, but they all, they're all the most important voices in the Democratic Party because they all made Barack Obama president of the United States. They are all the reason why Barack Obama was, according to them, and but those people like started to really pile on. And those people represent the money of the Democratic Party. They represent the what I call the corporate elite part of the Democratic Party. You know who stood with my dad? 100%. Black Caucus, Hispanic Caucus, the Progressive Caucus, all of the constituent parts of the Democratic Party, which are the base, whether you like it or not. Like as my dad said, you know what got my dad elected? Black women got my dad elected, period, the end. Black women who organized the party, who organized South Carolina, who organized every state. Why was Kamala more than anything his number one pick? Because why did he pick the first African American woman to be on the Supreme Court? Black women got my dad elected, not just to president. I mean, black women have been getting my dad elected since 1972, and so regardless, they all stood with him. But didn't stand with him. The editorial board of the New York Times, the Pod Save America guys, David Axelrod, Rahm Emanuel, all of the technocrats of the Democratic Party that don't have any feel or touch for the actual people that actually organize and vote, but they speak for them all the time. So that part did piss me off. And he gets sick with COVID. At the end of the trip, he does the NAACP event, and then he does the next day, he goes and he wakes up in the morning and he has a really horrible case of COVID. Flies back, looks awful. There's that awful picture of him getting off the plane. And Chuck Schumer, a representative of this group of, what you would call Democratic insiders, there really is no such thing, but people that had organized.
Bad guy.
The George Clooney kind of money piece of it.
Old guard.
And they had organized basically saying that I don't know what it was, 22 senators, Democratic senators, are going to sign a letter requesting that you drop out of the race, and they're going to oppose you all the way to the nomination, of which they couldn't. He's already won the nomination. This whole thing like, oh, my dad didn't have any competition. Does everybody forget that RFK ran against my dad? I mean, what bigger name in a party could you have than RFK Jr. running in a primary against my dad? My dad trounced him. And so Like it wasn't as if it wasn't contested. But
I would say that if
I
it's
said,
RFK
Dad,
Jr. or Joe Biden, the sitting president, like that doesn't feel to me like it's contested, right?
Oh, by the way, no, it
RFK
doesn't feel
Jr., I wouldn't
contested. By the
consider
way,
him to be
because he's the sitting president.
Yeah.
Just the same way that Jimmy Carter had to run against Ted Kennedy, but he's the sitting president. Is it? Yeah, usually sitting presidents, if they seek election.
Right.
Now, remember, the reason my dad ever even sought re-election was not because of this megalomania. I'd say from a family perspective, one and done would have been I'm all for it.
He had to. I mean, there was a joke of a list of candidates.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no
And by the way,
viable option.
Remember, he had the best midterms of any sitting president since FDR in 1932. I know we lost the House, okay? But we lost it by fewer votes. We had won more state House seats and our state legislative control than any time since 1932. He got more legislation passed in that 2-year period of time before the House changed than any president since Lyndon Johnson in 1968. Anybody.
So
and by the way, he created more jobs in 4 years, regardless if you say it was a COVID, take out the COVID, than any president in history had done in 8 years.
So after, and it sounds like it was a family decision as much as anything else. Like you guys were intimately involved in those conversations after the George Clooney's of the world take their knives out and the New Yorker takes their knives out. Decisions made to not seek re-election again. The aftermath of that, what were the conversations like about who's going to step up? Is it always going to be Kamala? Is it too late to have some sort of primary that, that's obviously not going to be planned for or well prepared?
Well, there you go.
Like, what was that conversation like at the time?
But there you go, though. Is that they didn't think about that. And what do? Of course, Joe Biden has to endorse his vice president. You know what I mean? He'd say, of course. That there is no way that Joe Biden's going to say but he doesn't have any control now over what happens at the convention. Then it's a fight. Then you decide, like the Pod Save America thing. They were going to redo all the primaries in a 6-week period of time.
I got to ask
In
you
what world?
I have to ask you an honest question.
Yeah.
No, ask him a lie.
So as an outsider, I think I speak for a lot of people saying this. Watching all this unfold was surreal in every sense, to the point where you're just thinking there's no way these people could be this unprepared. And no offense, but watching your father over those last 2 years, as someone who is by his side every day, this could not have been a surprise to you. Like, I know you say that
Oh, no, but
that
Dante,
that debate was, the
I promise you,
moment.
I promise you that was a surprise to me. I've never seen it since. I never saw it before. That thing. Now, I will tell you this was not a surprise to me. Not a surprise to me that my dad actually lost a step. That my dad actually spoke softer than he did. But I can just say, think of your own experience in your own life, okay? And particularly if you're close to your parents or older family members, there is a serious distinction between becoming older and frailer physically than there is become older and cognitively impaired. I know that there is a significant difference in that. I know on my mother's side of the family, is that there was my mom's side of the family, there was a cognitive impairment with an older aunt, and I watched that happen. I know on my dad's side of the family is that my grandparents got older, but they never lost. Like, the first person I would pick up the phone and ask about, hey, what should I do about this? Or whether it was my love life or whether it was, advice about, my kids or whatever, was my grandmother, who lived to 93. Now, she could hardly get up and out of the chair, but she was all there. That was my dad. 100% my dad. So this whole Sleepy Joe thing and all that, if that's the standard, then why aren't we having a 25th Amendment right now? The man literally falls asleep in a room full of his entire cabinet, sitting behind the Resolute desk. And that is not an exaggeration or unfair. It's not unfair of me to say that. It's not like they just caught him closing his eyes for a moment and said, oh, he's sleeping, like they would do with my dad, okay? You literally can go back and look at the videotape of him with an entire cabinet speaking behind him, sitting in a chair, and he's sleeping. He's out.
That's the irony, but also the brilliance of Donald Trump, for lack of a better term.
I know, it drives you
It's
crazy.
a brilliant, because I think he understands America, and America is all about advertising and branding, and he just branded your dad, Sleepy Joe. And
Biden crime family, man.
and the irony is he always sleeping now.
What does the organizational chart look like for the Biden crime? Are you a capo?
Are you a made man?
On a lot of boards.
I'm at the fucking whole top. Yeah.
I do have a question though. You said you've never seen that from your dad since then.
Yes.
So do you think, had he stayed in, one, that he would have won, and two, that you believe he could have been president until he was 86?
Yeah, I think that I would have recommended, I don't think with the cancer that he should have remained president, because I think that there is a physical component to it that is required. I also do know this. Look, man, here's the honest answer. Well, I hope everything I say is honest, okay? But the way that I feel, I believe that competence is the single most important thing to public service, okay? Competent, just being competent, like caring enough to do the job that you've been asked to do, regardless of the direction that you want to take it. But if you're going to take it that direction, do it in a competent way, in a way in which the fewest number of people get hurt and the maximum number of people benefit from it. Whatever your choice is as president, competence is the most important thing. But without communication, all the competence in the world doesn't matter. And the honest answer to what you're asking me is this, is that at some point, frailty, physical frailty, imperils your ability to be able to communicate strength to the American people. It's just true. Is that those images of him walking slower to the helicopter, or like he stood for over, I think, 2.5 hours. He shook the hand of every Air Force Academy graduate at that speech, that he then literally, he handed every single one of them something Donald Trump would never do, their diploma. And at the end of that, he turned and there was a sandbag and he fell. And like I saw Dave, had that. Or for instance, he rode his bike almost every day that he would go down to the beach with my mom. And he, like all of us have ever done, he caught his foot in the basket of the bike that he was riding and fell over. And without the ability to communicate strength, to be completely stripped from you simply by, whether it's fair or not, your age, it's how it is. It's just the reality. So to answer your question, is that, I don't think that he would have stayed the entire time, but I wish he had stayed long enough to win, because he's the only person that ever beat Donald Trump, and he got 81 million votes, and he got 81 million votes because of Joe Biden, not because of Donald Trump.
You do think he would have won in 24?
I do believe that he would have won in 24. And by the way, though, I've said it before, I think my dad, could hang the moon. So it's unfair to ask me that question. I think my dad, could right now run a marathon. If you ask me that question, I'm the least unbiased person in the face of the earth about my dad.